deepest fear is not that we're inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we're powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. Who are we to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, fabulous? Well, who are you not to be? You are a child of God. Your playing small does not impact the world. It's not encouraged by you shrinking down so that other people don't feel insecure when they're around you. You're supposed to let your light shine bright as children do. We were put here to make manifest the glory of God that is within us. It's not just in some of us, it's in everyone. So as you let your light shine, you unconsciously give others permission to do the same. And as we are liberated from our own fears, our presence automatically liberates others. Marianne Williamson. That quote single-handedly changed my life. Before that quote, I tried to downplay my abilities, my talents, just to fit in for the people that were around me. After I read that quote, my life automatically changed. I take no more prisoners whenever I'm faced with a situation or a challenge. Following God, of course, I hit it full speed and never stop. So when you talk about letting your light shine, when you talk about being resilient, when you talk about being liberated from your fears, you must include Rosaura Torres. Let's learn more about her right here, right now on the Mark Baxter Show. Let's get it. Rosaura Torres, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing great. Welcome to the Mark Baxter Show. It's a pleasure.
Thank you so much.
All right, we'll get right into it. Let's tell everyone, what do you do for a living?
Well, first of all, I'm an activist and advocate against domestic violence. I do receive a pension from the city of Philadelphia, but I also am the author of Abuse Hidden Behind the Badge. And in Spanish, it's Abuso Escondido Detrás de la Placa.
Interesting.
Thank you.
It's really inspiring. And I'm sure there's more to go along with that, a story behind it, and we'll get into that as well. Now, thinking about your growth and development on your journey to get to this point, how influential has your family been in that journey?
Very good question. At the beginning, my children were not supportive because the book is based on their father and the abuse that we all suffered by his hands. My ex-husband was, when he retired, was chief inspector for the Philadelphia Police Department.
Wow.
So that angered him. My siblings, I got a lot of support from my sister Mary Lou in Puerto Rico, my brother Louis, my brother Joe, my sister Dina, my brother Ishmael. He kind of teased me a little and kind of laughed at me. He said I was trying to get on Oprah, but I told him it had nothing to do with trying to get on Oprah. I needed to tell my story.
Absolutely. You wanted to tell your story, and he poked jokes a little as if you wanted some attention.
Exactly.
I got you. I understand.
Exactly.
So, okay, so we're hearing a little bit about some of the, some of the adversity and things. And again, we'll dive more into it, but what does Rosa, is it okay if I call you Rosa?
Yes, please.
Okay. What does Rosa do for fun?
I love being around my grandchildren.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I have 5 of them. I love being around family. Family is important. I'm the youngest of 9 children. And I just had a barbecue here Saturday, and I can't tell you how many family were together. My son is getting ready to get married, and her family is from Portugal. So, and I was trying to pick up, some of the words they say because it's close to Spanish. But it was great. It was family. We were all there together. So, but I also love going to the gym, but I stopped attending the gym that I love going to because I was cornered by an ex-police officer, or a police officer.
Oh, wow. So,
yeah.
So is your ex-husband a police officer? He
is now the chief of police in Lancaster, PA.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, interesting.
Very.
Okay.
Yeah.
So in life, we all experience adversity, some triumph. We have victories, successes, negative experiences. When you think about what motivates you Are you more motivated through adversity or through success?
Adversity.
Why is that?
I survived. Many can't say they survived. I'm sure, Mark, that you see in the media and the newspapers, many are not making it. I happen to be one of the lucky ones. It caused me 2 retinal detachments, but I survived.
My God. So you had 2 retinal detachments?
Yes. Yes, I have.
How long was that recovery? Like, what does that do to you mentally going through that?
Well, the person I was 20 years ago, more than 20 years, I'm not the same person. I don't drive anymore. I don't travel alone because of my vision. I have done that, fallen and I can't get up. And I've done that several times, and that's where the risk that I'm taking by being not accompanied by somebody, I can go completely blind. So I stay home unless my children or my boyfriend Michael is with me, or one of my friends. I do not travel alone, and not even on the bus, because I've done the falling on the bus, and it's a little nerve-wracking.
I can imagine in public, and with all of the danger and all of the things out in public. I can only imagine, and that leads me kind of to my next question. You know, looking at society, you know, with all of the devastation, you know, you have multiple tornadoes in Oklahoma, deadly tornadoes at that. You know, you had abductions in Ohio, in which, you know, this man held women captive for a decade in some instances. You have murders all across the country. You know, what would you say the psychological state of our nation is at this point?
I mean, you think about the families who lost loved ones in a tornado. You think about these young women who have been held captive all these years, those who lose loved ones. I just lost a nephew last year. He was murdered on the streets of Philadelphia. We're still going to court for that. So you think about them, and do you have that faith that you will, pass through this? Yes, but the memories of all of this, and the hurricanes, tornadoes, the death, the killing, the young girl, that's a long healing process.
It weighs on you, absolutely.
Yeah, it was very difficult for me when my nephew was killed last year, because I was angry.
Right.
I cannot tell you how. I didn't blame God, but I was angry.
You wanted revenge.
Yes, I was angry. But then I realized we must come together as a family to show that we're not salvajes, as we say, savages. We want just the legal justice. We want to make sure. So we support one another.
Right.
We tell them that we will get by this. Mm-hmm. And the only way is, praying. I pray a lot. When I feel that something's going to upset me, I said, okay, let me sit back and just do the woosah and pray.
Pass it on to the higher power, someone bigger than yourself.
Yes.
I agree. I do the same thing. Same thing. Well, tell us, we heard a little bit and things like that, but maybe you would like to discuss something else, or maybe you want to piggyback off of what you've already discussed in the domestic violence thing, but talk a little about one of the most adverse situations that you had to overcome in life, and shed some light, because there are people out there that need that, because maybe they're headed towards that similar devastation, or maybe they just need help overcoming being a victim of a situation. So what would you say as one of the most traumatic situations you've experienced?
Domestic violence, many are ashamed. People would rather blame the victim instead of the abuser. So we as society must support that victim. Right. When they survive, and then when they try to get the help, you rather point the finger. We must support that. It doesn't matter if you're a man, woman, or child. We all suffer the same way when it involves domestic violence. Mm-hmm. So my thing is, don't blame us, don't shame us, and don't start pointing fingers. Mm-hmm. We need your support. This is one of the things I could never tell my parents, that I was getting smacked around. Wow. And at the end of my marriage, I finally was able to tell them, but it was too late. The retinal detachment happened. So as an activist and an advocate, I'm going to support him or her or that child. I'm not going to point my finger, and I'm not going to make them feel that they're to blame for getting smacked around. They're not.
No, without a doubt they're not.
And this is where the problem we have in society. No disrespect, but when Lieutenant Josie hit that Ada Guzman in the face, they blamed her.
Absolutely.
The judge blamed her. So it's wrong, but it's happening to our men too. It's not just to women. Domestic violence doesn't care if you're black or white or Latino or Asian or you're man or a woman. It affects all of us in the worst way. It does.
It does. And before we move forward, I want to read some staggering statistics about domestic violence that I was alarmed to see myself. The first being, every 9 seconds in the United States, a woman is assaulted or beaten. So that's every 9 seconds, okay? Next one. Around the world, at least 1 in every 3 women has been beaten, coerced into sex, or otherwise abused during her lifetime. Most often, the abuser is a member of the family. Third, nearly 1 in 5 teenage girls who have been in a relationship said a boyfriend threatened violence or self-harm if presented with a breakup. Amazing. Every day in the United States, more than 3 women are murdered by their husbands or boyfriends. Every day, 3 women are murdered as a result of domestic violence. And finally, men who are children and witness their parents' domestic violence were twice as likely to engage in domestic violence themselves over kids that didn't witness such abuse. So there you have it. You know, in some instances, in a lot of instances, domestic violence is at the hands of people that are close to you. Yes. And in most instances, every female that's in a relationship, for the most part, have experienced some type of domestic violence.
Yes. Yes.
And that's amazing. You know, talk about that a little.
I've received phone calls from all over, not only in the United States, but also in the UK. When they call me from the United Kingdom and thanking me for telling my story and giving them the power to get the help that they need, because when women, you know, this really is, we receive this to the core, the pain that we receive. It's okay to get help. It's all right. It doesn't make you crazy if you go and get that help. It makes you sane because you're willing to get that help. So what people don't realize, never tell a survivor, "Oh, get over it." It's not that easy.
Do you think that sometimes the victim blames themselves because society may portray them as a bad person, and maybe they start thinking that maybe they are a bad person, they deserve to get beat?
Yeah, I thought that.
Oh, wow.
I did. I mean, I felt that I wasn't good enough, or I didn't have long hair enough, or I wasn't thin enough. This is the mentality that I experienced with my ex-husband, or what he would say to the boys, that they weren't going to amount to anything. And that was a struggle for me, because I would go behind him telling the children, "Don't listen to him. You can be anything you want." But it was difficult.
So it was a battle in your own
It was
household.
a battle. It was a big battle, and it breaks my heart because even till today, my children are young adults, and I still have to give that encouragement. You're amazing, beautiful people. Don't let anyone tell you differently. One of the things I've learned, Mark, we are queen and kings of God.
Absolutely.
And no one has the right to hurt us. Period. I don't care what anybody says. We are queen and kings of God. So when someone says, "Well, you know, she said this or he said that," no. You have no right to touch them.
Right.
You have no right to belittle them. People think that domestic violence is only physical, but it's mental, it's emotional, it's even financial.
Wow.
Yeah, because he did that. He was the breadwinner.
Give us an example of how financial abuse can be held.
As my ex-husband was the breadwinner, he was a high-ranking officer in the police department. I was attending school. He gave me the impression that, okay, you know, you can go to school and I'll pay for everything, but that wasn't the case. When the time came and I finally decided to get a protection order, I had my electricity shut off, my phone shut off. He didn't want to help me with the mortgage, so I was like I dropped my protection order, Mark.
Right. You almost
I
like you had no
dropped
other
it.
option.
Yes. So the option they gave me, and I still saved the legal documentation for that, either you drop your protection order or you don't receive any help.
Right.
So I dropped my protection order.
Wow.
And that happens to so many women. They don't know what to do. They're like, oh my God, what am I supposed to do? And that's the power. A lot of men like my ex and women who have that power, financial, they don't know what to do.
So Rosa, so let's tell the people what to do in case they're in a similar situation or they think they may be headed toward that kind of situation. Earlier you made mention that you were afraid to tell your mother.
Yeah.
And it was almost when you had your eye detached, you had to tell her.
Yes.
But what advice would you give another female or person in that situation? Should they go and tell someone immediately,
Yes.
or what? Okay, so
Yes. Speak up. Don't keep the silence, because silence kills. Don't feel guilty. Don't blame yourself nor shame yourself. And in reference to financial, you'll get yours because you deserve it. I didn't think that, but I got mine. You understand?
Absolutely.
I held on strong. I held on to my beliefs that no, I deserve more.
Good for you.
When the sign of domestic violence, the controlling happens, run. Don't wait for the next time that, oh my God, maybe she would change, maybe he would change. No. When it involves domestic violence, until that person, the abuser, is willing to realize, look, I have a problem and I need to get help. No. He will hit you again. He will hurt, or she will hurt you. See, I have to put both of them there because I don't want your viewers to think that it's only one-sided. It's two-sided.
Right, absolutely.
So a woman and a man can become abusers. So in that case, stand up for yourself. Don't wait. You know, sometimes I have lost so much, but I'm still here.
Still here.
And you can't keep me silent anymore. This is how I feel. I'm free.
You're free.
I am so free, Mark. It's like, it's an amazing, amazing feeling. A little damage, a little bent, not broken.
Absolutely.
But I'm here.
You're here.
I'm
You're
here.
And don't worry about the damage, because we all got a little damage.
Just a little.
We all have a little damage.
Thank
okay,
you.
now I want to piggyback off something else. You
Okay.
made mention once the signs of domestic violence appear to run, but you also made mention earlier that at times you feel so broken and insecure that you start blaming yourself. So how can a victim of domestic violence bridge that gap, because they know they should run, but yet they're feeling inadequate and they don't know who to run to? So what do you do in that instance?
There are so many wonderful organizations out there that can give that woman or man support. There's Women in Transition, there's Women Against Abuse, there's Congresos, there's Lutheran House here in Philadelphia. There are so many that are willing to reach out, because they're there. I'm here.
Right.
I always tell them, I said, I'm a listener. I don't have an organization, the Committee for Justice for Ada Guzman, but my thing is a lot bigger than just that committee. I'm here to listen, and I will encourage you, and no matter what, Mark, the women that call me, I tell them. I even advocated for a man in Reading, Pennsylvania, because the thing is, we must support one another.
Absolutely.
We must stop pulling each other down. That's one of the other things, because I'm sure a lot of the friends, well, why did you stay? Well, why did you do this? I used to ask myself the same question. Why did I stay? I always thought this man really loved me. He didn't love me.
Right. Actions speak louder than
Oh,
words.
yes.
You know?
So there are great organizations, but you grab those tools. Don't go back.
Right.
You run with those tools like a football player.
Absolutely.
And you hit that touchdown. That's how I feel, because I grabbed those tools when I went through Women in Transition. I never looked back. I kept running. So I keep hitting touchdowns.
Okay,
Yeah.
good for you.
Thank
good for
you.
you. You good to go. Maybe you'll get MVP.
I hope so.
Listen, well, I tell you what, you gave some valuable information, and I'm sure you'll help loads of people that are watching.
So.
Talk about your book.
Abuse Hidden Behind the Badge. As I told you, I survived. Why behind the badge? I protected him. I protected his title. I protected his image. He was called the Philadelphia Golden Child of the Philadelphia Police Department. People even call me a liar. But do you know, Mark, that now after all these years, people are coming up to me, police officers, and telling me, I remember when you were getting hit. I remember when you called the police. I remember when he was being investigated and they squashed it. I remember reaching out for help from our politicians. I won't tell their names, but I have the letter to prove that I have reached out to many politicians trying to get help. And it's difficult when they would rather protect the abuser because of his position. So with all the flaws that we have as humans, I said, I'm going to publish it. And I self-published my story.
Good for you. And
with the blessing of God, because I put him first, my book has won 3 awards.
Oh, congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. 2 in New York. The English book won for Best Book in English at the International Latino Book Awards. And this is Edward James Olmos' baby. And then the Spanish book won honorable mention for Best Book in Bilingual. And then it won in English in Los Angeles at the LA Book Festival to become a movie. So I'm crossing my fingers and patiently waiting. So God he has blessed me, but not with the awards, but with the fact that I'm still here. And anyone that reaches out to me, I'm here.
That's a great story, Rosa.
Thank you.
And just to the audience, although Rosa's situation unfortunately was at the hands of a police officer, in no means are we targeting police officers. That's just the facts. Her situation happened to involve a police officer, but the reason I read the statistics is so that we can raise awareness that it's much broader than just one group of people or one occupation. There are people all across the world that are victims as well as perpetrators of domestic violence. As you heard, 3 women are murdered daily at the hands of their husbands or boyfriends. Yes. Come on, America. It's time to wake up. And your alarm clock today, is Razar Torres. So we thank you so much for sharing your story.
May I share something before
Absolutely.
we go there?
Absolutely.
There are no statistics in regards to police officers who are charged with domestic violence. They won't reveal that. Okay. So we are lucky to know that this is being revealed in the military. You know, that's been happening a lot. With the sexual abuse, but there are no statistics on domestic violence involving police officers.
Wow.
So I'm not a cop hater because I have a lot of great friends on the police department, but my thing is, don't take that position and become abusive.
Right.
And become overpowering and think that you're above the law, because you're not. So we want to still call 911 when we're in danger. We want to feel that you're going to protect us. So this is how many of us, there are many from Seattle, Washington, from Michigan, from Jersey, many advocates in regards to domestic violence that are out there. So thank you, and thank you so much, Mark. You know, bringing this to light means so much to my sisters and my brothers out there.
No, the pleasure is all ours, and you're a remarkable and strong-willed person. Continue success.
Thank you. God bless you. Thank you.
Many of you have heard the saying, 10% is what happens to you, but 90% is how do you respond to what has happened to you. Now, we all know that life is cumulative. Everything that you've done in your life and everything that you continue to do, it all counts. So why not start making all of your actions count towards your motivation? Learn how to get motivated through adversity. Learn how to also get motivated through success. Therefore, you don't let no situation slip or pass you by without you capitalizing on it. The time is now, people. We can't beat time. It waits for no one. So it's time to get up off the canvas, start fighting, and start being smarter about your battle. See, it's time to stop renting. It's ownership time. No more renting and leasing. Let's own it, and let's start with our own life. Be good, be loved, and be a blessing to someone else. You heard it on the Mark Baxter Show, where empowerment is unlimited. Peace.